Kufar, Akbar, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Cross and the Crescent discussion group. This is a YouTube live stream show dedicated to rightly dividing the truth between Christianity and Islam. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. I know that this is not an international holiday, and I know we got our brother Jai and Daughter of Christ here today. I didn't hear Daughter of Christ there. Maybe she's not with us. But anyway, this is a big American holiday. And prior to the show, I got people sending me Skype messages, sending me text messages, sending me messages from, a weather balloon, for crying out loud. Where are you? What do you, folks? It's Mother's Day here in Kafiristan. And here in Kafiristan, if it's Mother's Day, there's going to be a little delay getting here. I got the whole family out in the front yard playing pickleball. They're not very good at pickleball. Have you ever seen that you guys know this? You guys know what I'm talking about? Pickleball? It's a paddle. You guys, who knows?
Nope.
You guys
never heard of it.
You've never heard of it?
No,
not really.
Nope, never heard of it.
You guys.
Oh wait, really quickly, guys. Okay, to maintain with YouTube policy guidance, he said Happy Mother's Day. We must correct him on that. It's Happy Birthing Person and Menstruating Persons and Lactating Persons Day. We can no longer say mothers. That's just not YouTube.
Well, it's a celebration of mothers here in Kafiristan, and every day I get it. Every day, I was actually told by one of our antagonists that every day is Mother's Day in Islam. It's because you get to beat your wives, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so today is a real treat because we have our brother Jai here, and we're going to be discussing Quranic. I titled the show. I think I titled the show Quranic variants. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to be talking about problems with the Quranic text itself. We'll discuss everything from perfect preservation to how the text or the changes or the differences themselves impact the meaning of the text and how it can impact Islam. And one of the things that we've always had this accusation fired at Christians is saying, look, your Bible's corrupted. We know that your Bible's corrupted, and therefore you can't trust your Bible. And when we say corruption, when we say that the Bible has been corrupted, what they're basically, the accusation is that you have textual variants. And we're just so the reason I'm doing this, folks, there's a method to my madness here, because I don't want everybody to think that we're a bunch of hypocrites saying, well, the Muslims have the same problem. Let me just say this. Of the textual variants that we have in all of our manuscripts, I think we have 5,600 Greek New Testament manuscripts. Of all the variants, this corruption that's charged, of all the variants that are in those texts, all of them, none of those variants impact any core Christian belief at all. None of them do. They changed nothing. The overwhelming majority of those variants are nothing more than word order, misspelling, because they didn't have a Webster's dictionary in the first century, for crying out loud. I mean, that get people to understand that. Good luck. So when we talk about variants in the Bible, we have no problem with variants. We have no problem with our manuscripts not completely matching one another. And the reason why is because everything was hand jammed back then, folks. Scribes had to write this out, and scribes make errors. And we know that. This is just a natural human condition. The problem with Islam is this is not what they believe. They believe that everything has been preserved down to the last jot and tittle, however they say it there. What are they called? Diacritical marks in Arabic. All of those have been perfectly preserved. And the fact is they haven't. And so this is what our brother Jai is going to be discussing with us today. Are you there, sir?
Hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for having me on. As you said, it is just going to be me today. Maybe we'll have a surprise if Daughter of Christ joins, but we'll just plan on it just being me. Yeah, so exactly. That's exactly how I like to lay out the introduction for the topic as well. And I have a clip that really demonstrates that point, that the variants of the New Testament and variants of the Quran are completely different level. So if you want, I can start with that. I'll show you the slide on that, and then we can kind of begin here.
Did you want to go full screen and leave this?
Yeah, I'll just.
There we go. Okay.
I'll just play it. Yeah, I'll just play this. And
my buddy Dan Wallace. He's my friend. Him and I are friends.
All right, there you go.
I'm kidding. That's a bad joke. But I love listening to this guy. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Daniel Wallace here in his debate with Bart Ehrman makes this statement. And then we have a clip from a Muslim scholar talking about the same exact topic, except with the Quran. So Daniel Wallace is representing New Testament text critics. So that's believing and unbelieving, because he's representing himself and Bart Ehrman. As you'll see, he introduces it in the clip. And then you're going to hear a Muslim scholar talking about the same exact topic, just with the Quran. So let's check this out. See what he says.
Meaningful and viable. What I mean by meaningful is that they change the meaning of the text to some degree. And viable means that they have a good chance of representing the original wording. Less than 1% of all textual variants fit this group, as Bart and I would both agree.
30% of its variations are not performance. They affect the meaning so much. Meanings become completely different.
All right. So right off the bat there, we see Daniel Wallace saying, look, as a New Testament scholar, representing both believing and unbelieving scholars in this field, we say that less than 1% of New Testament textual variants actually affect the meaning and are viable. Less than 1%. And as Eric noted, these are not affecting any doctrine of the Christian faith. These are things like in Mark chapter 1, verse 41, did Jesus show compassion to the leper, or did he show anger? There's manuscripts that say both. And so the textual critic will try to figure out, based on a variation of reasons and methodologies, what was most likely the original thing that Mark wrote by inspiration of the Holy Spirit. So it's not like a third option. They're saying, oh, there's a third option. The original is somewhere else. No, they're saying within those two, Mark definitely wrote one of these things. Which one was it? And as you can see in that example, we don't learn anything new about Jesus there. We see Jesus showing compassion elsewhere in the Bible. We see Jesus showing righteous indignation or anger elsewhere in the Bible. None of those variants would affect Christian doctrine at all. Now, when it comes to the Quran, we're talking not less than 1%. He just said 30%. 30% of variants affect the Quran completely. And we're going to get into examples of that. So,
Jai, can I ask you a question real quick before you go on? Yeah. Who is that Fidel Suleiman guy? Who is that guy?
Okay, so he's a Muslim scholar who has Have you heard of the Bridges translation of the Quran? The British translation. I'd recommend you get it. You might have it, but you're just not familiar with the title of it, because it's very important dealing with this topic. As far as I know, he's the first English translation of the 10 canonical readings into English. And so what he does is he uses Hafs as a base and translates that. But then whenever there's a difference between the variant Qurans, he'll note in the footnotes, by the way, in this reading, it says this. By the way, in this reading, it says that. So it's really important because it's an English translation, very accessible, easily accessible. And he notes whenever there are meaningful differences between the texts. Now, he only does 30%.
Wait.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
so there is a critical version of the Quran. It's called the Bridges Quran.
Yeah, well, see, he wouldn't think it's critical, but yeah, he has a translation of it, and yeah, it's called the Bridges translation, and then
Quran, yeah.
Yep. So if you look at, yeah, there's actually an app there's an app for it for like, Android and Apple if you wanted to download it as well. Quran.com used to have it on their website, But I think that a lot of people, like, we made it too popular, and so so Quran.com took it off. They took it off their website. They used to offer it as a
Wow.
translation. Yeah, they used to offer as a translation. So yeah, he's I think his his degrees are in Islamic law and other things, but he's considered to be an Islamic scholar, and that's his notable work, is translating the 10 qira'at, the 10 canonical readings into English. So yeah, definitely would recommend that as a resource for anyone who's interested in this
I just
topic.
downloaded. I have an app for that now.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, cool. So I've seen a lot of the ones that have like big different meanings, and he does do a good job for most of them. Sometimes he misses it here and there, and sometimes he doesn't give you like the full power of the actual difference. But for the most part, it's all there, and you're gonna see the differences. Yep, there you go. So yeah, let's play this clip now. This one's gonna be good. Paul Williams and
Oh, boy.
another Muslim scholar, Haitham Sidki, and check out what he says here. And this is just gonna be a way to introduce our topic. And then if you guys ever want to comment on anything, you want me to stop or anything like that, you guys feel free. Or if we get any questions or anything, I don't know how you guys want to do that.
We
Just
just talk over each other. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, cool. That works. All right, so check this out. Listen to this.
Brother Guy, real quick. Ella Dean is in the audience, and he says hello.
Who's that?
This guy right
Aladdin?
here. You know Aladdin. He's evidently, you guys are friends.
Don't know. Anyway,
I think he's from
hello.
Paltalk. Yeah, I think he's from Paltalk. But go ahead, let's continue.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ignore
okay.
him.
Muslim from Paltalk. Okay. Yeah. All right. So check this out.
Children. Many people, maybe most, I don't know, many Muslims grow up not knowing anything outside of the Hafs tradition. And they don't get exposed to the idea that there are other reading traditions and that there are Quranic variants and that all sort of this whole system framework that I discussed. And it might be surprising to some people, but, and unfortunately, actually, so I have heard some preachers that do say that there's only, one reading or one Quran or something like that. And, if I were to be very generous, I would say that falls under the umbrella of like lies to children, if that makes sense. So lies to children.
What? Sorry? Lies to children. Yes. So, yeah. What are your thoughts? Quran, no different Quran.
And this is what's been said since where you blew up the holes in the narrative shtick with Yasser Qadi.
Oh yeah.
When we were able to show, side by side on a computer screen and live stream it to up to 1 million people who have seen it and show them that there are differences, to continue to tell the same story, perfect preservation down to last letter, that fits perfectly. That's like a bedtime story. That's like a Aesop Faber's fairy tale. This is what, believe it. Or, and then look what it does to the faith of those who do believe this, and they find out the real story. This is like being told that there's no Santa Claus.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, look at their face.
Student and specialist, that the standard narrative has holes. That's what
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I had to.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that. Yeah. So look at their faces. That says it all. Like, his face. He's like, yeah, that's a lie that we tell the children, that there's only one Quran.
And one thing about this Paul Williams guy, he has like 500,000 subscribers. He isn't somebody that, even though we all probably disagree with, what he said, but he has a pretty big following on YouTube alone. And when you can get his to raise his eyebrows like that, yeah, that's big.
Yeah. Yeah, he was really thrown off by that. All right, so this is kind of our graph here that I like to say, why reinvent the wheel? There's no need. So Shadi Nasser did it for us. He put out a graph, so credits to him. on this graph, and it just kind of lays out the canonizations of the Qur'ans through history, and it does it in a way to where it's, I guess you could say it's agrees with the Islamic historical kind of development, as well as a kind of critical scholarly perspective, except on one point. You're going to see that he considers the first canonization to be Uthman in 656 roughly, whereas your traditional Muslim would say no, actually it was Abu Bakr. He was the first one to do it sometime before. So after that, you could say this pretty much agrees with the Muslim timeline as well. So there'd be no really disagreement if we were talking about Muslim right now about this and talking about when was this process, when was this canonized. And so the person that I want to focus on right now is a guy called Ibn Mujahid. And Ibn Mujahid was a 10th century scholar who had a lot of political ties, a lot of political power. And in his time, there were about 70 plus readings of the Quran, 70 plus readings, all different from each other. And so you can imagine, this religion is kind of like just starting out, that you're 200 years or so into it, and you already get 70 plus versions of it. So what does he do? He takes 7 of them. Why does he choose the 7 that he chooses? Muslim scholars don't know. There's no real reason that they have. In fact, he was criticized for taking 7 because a lot of people are familiar with the hadith that says that there's 7 modes or 7 ahruf that the Quran was revealed in. So a lot of people just said, 7 readings that Ibn Mujahid chose, and there's 7 ahruf, so they must be the same thing because 7 is 7. So he created a lot of confusion for Muslims. So he was highly criticized by other scholars, and eventually, in the 15th century, as you can see here on the graph, Ibn al-Jazari came along and he added 3 more readings. So he went from 7 readings to 10 readings. And that happens in the 15th century, the 3 extra readings. So basically how it works...
Did he make that up? I'm sorry, did he make that up? Or did he actually have 10 actual different readings? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes. Right. So here's what they have. They have like these 10, what they call 10 readers. And each of those 10 readers, they narrowed it down. That's what these guys are doing here in about the 11th and 12th century here. This Adani and Shaltabi, they're kind of narrowing it down to 2 each. So you have 1 reader, and this 1 reader has 2 students now. So every of the 10 readers, all the 10 readers have 2 students each, and you can read the Quran through one of their readers. So altogether, if you were to put them out on a table, you'd see 20 different readings. So 2 go to 1 reader. Now you would think that the 2 students would agree on what this reader said, but they don't. So Muslims are always saying, yeah, we have this chain of narration. This person said it from this person, said it from this person, said it from this person, blah, 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 all the way back to Muhammad. Well, here we're talking about teacher to student. They can't even agree on what their teacher said the Quran is. And we'll get into examples of that.
Don't they have this written down, though? I mean, this is post-Uthmanic. This is where you should not have any disagreement as far as what the text itself says. I mean, this is why they wrote it down, is because there was disagreement.
Yeah.
So how can they still have disagreements if you just have one perfectly preserved text? I've never understood this Qur'an roof stuff. I've never really took the time to look into it. But
okay,
if there are differences are differences. That means that you do not have perfect preservation. You have differences, which means that you don't have perfect preservation. It's never made sense to me. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons for like how you can get all these differences from the Uthmanic script. That script was one where the Arabic language was written without any consonantal marks to differentiate between different letters, also without any vowel marks. So you can take that ambiguous text or a defective text. It's also called a defective text. There's a defective script, and you can take that and you can actually read these words in a combination of different ways. So if we were looking at it together, we could see, and we're going to get into examples of this where you guys are going to see that the differences are so minute, they're so small that it just seems like one scribe added this vowel here, another scribe added another vowel there, and that's how they got the differences. That's would make the most sense to us. And you actually have Muslim scholars criticizing, that script and saying, look, that script is not a developed script. It's actually underdeveloped, and it creates a lot of ambiguity. So we'll get into those differences, but I just want to say one more thing about Ibn Mujahid. So because he had this political pull in the 10th century, and he was the one who really chose these 7 readings. Again, no one knows why he chose the 7. No one knows why he just chose 7, but he enforced these readings, and he would stop people through political pull that he had for reading other readings and prayers and things like that. So you had one guy or 2 guys like, hey, we're reading the Quran of Ibn Masud, or we're reading the Quran of Ubay. And he's like, no, you only read the 7 that I chose. You don't go outside of these 7 in prayers and things. So he would enforce it by law. So he would imprison people, send them to prison. He'd whip them, all sorts of crazy things until they were forced to repent and accept his readings. So the reason why I'm emphasizing why he's so important is because I want you to see his views of the Quran and all these differences. So this is just kind of a story of what I was just describing here. Yeah, I won't read it all, but you can see that there was a case here between Ibn Mujahid and someone called Ibn Shenabuth, and essentially he forced him to accept his 7 readings. And this is sort of their way. This story kind of shows us how he enforced his readings across the Muslim world that he had power in, and eventually it spread throughout.
Okay, so this is 10th century, correct?
10th century.
This is 300 years after, almost 400 years after the death of Muhammad.
Yeah, almost.
And
yeah.
And okay, all right, go ahead.
So these are the 7 that he chose. These 7 readers. Ones that we're going to be very familiar with is the 3rd to the bottom. Awesome. That's where you get the reading Hafs from. So that's just kind of there just for background in case anyone's interested. There's the dates. Now this is really interesting here. So check this out. The guy who canonized these different Qurans, this is how he viewed the differences between them. He said that people differed in reading in these different qira'ats, just as they differed in legal rulings. Just as transmitters of hadith differed about narrations, like this person narrated this from this person, of companions and their followers. So he's saying, like, look, you know how you have a hadith and it's like one hadith is the same exact content as another one, but the chain is different. So they'll say like, oh, this one is weak because the chain is weak, but this one is strong because the chain is strong, but the content is still the same. So he's saying, like, look, just like how they differ in hadith about which chain is strong, which chain is weak, and just like you have different legal rulings, like one school of thought says, you can do this certain Islamic practice. Another one says, no, you can do this Islamic practice. They just have these differences. Muslims wouldn't say that these are divine differences. So you might have one school that outlaws all sorts of seafood, and one of them that says, no, you can actually have like shellfish or something. So there's different opinions on that. But no one would actually say that their difference of opinion is something that's divine. It's just their scholarly difference. So he viewed the different readings and how they differed as just the same way that legal jurists would differ, and just like hadith and hadith collectors would differ. So he wasn't saying these things are all divine. They're all from this one divine source, and they're all coming out through different ways, and this is how it was supposed to be from Gabriel or whatever. He actually often in his work, and we're going to see an example here. Where not this one, but let me just go to our example, where Ibn Mujahid actually says that Hafs is wrong. And so think about Muslims today. If you talk to Muslims about this topic today, 9 times out of 10, well, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to know about it. And they're going to say, no, there's only one Quran. What are you talking about? But we've already discussed how that's, a lie to children, that's not actually something that Muslims who know Islam or Muslim scholars who know Islam would actually seriously say. They actually, once they get to this next level, like, I don't know if you have that Yasser Qadhi clip where he says, like, there's these different levels. You're at the very, very beginning level. And what is all
right.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Sure.
Yeah. And then you go to the next level.
Muhammad Hijab conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you go to the next level and you're just kind of regurgitating what the scholars say. And then you take a deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, what is all this going on? These things don't work. These theories don't work. So the Muslims who have taken that deep dive, or the Muslims who are in the intermediate level who know about these differences, they'll say things like, oh, it doesn't matter if you have this reading, or Hafs is saying this and Warsh is saying that and Qalun is saying, they're saying, no, they're actually all from God. They're all divinely inspired. That's what they'll say. So here is Ibn Mujahid, the one who canonized the readings, saying that actually Hafs was wrong in some places. So here's an instance where Hafs confuses a verb and a noun. So this is, and he goes, no, he's just wrong. He's wrong. This is not correct. He confused the verb form of the word with the noun with the noun. And so imagine the guy who canonized the readings of the Quran had no problem with saying that some of these readings were wrong. This is something that we wouldn't hear any Muslim say that today. So where this evolution of this view of the Quran and how there's no errors in it, no problems in it at all, this is where it started. The one who canonized them actually said, no, there actually are errors. There are differences. There are mistakes. Okay, so let's go to some of these differences.
Okay, well, is this widely discussed in Islamic circles, that the guy that basically established the canonicity of the Quran says that, well, based on what I have, there are mistakes? I mean, is this taught?
No. This is not something that's widely taught at all. In fact, you bring talk to any Muslim about this topic, and like I said, 9 times out of 10, they've never heard about the different readings of the Quran. 9 times out of 10. You do have that, there is a small minority of Muslims who are familiar, but they don't actually go deep into it, like Yasser Qadhi says. They keep
this would be part of
really
Yasser Qadhi's deep dive. This
would be part of
this is where they would learn it.
Yeah, this is part of Yasser Qadhi. We don't discuss this in public. Take my class.
Right, I was about to say that. You got to pay me money for me to finally tell you the truth. Thank you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Money. But Rad,
Yeah.
you need to have that little clip of that song. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is not something that's widely discussed or widely known. And so when Muslims are brought, these things are brought to them, that's why it shakes their faith. That's why after the interview that Yasser Qadhi had with Muhammad Hijab, they saw in the comment section, hundreds of Muslims, Sheikh, what do you mean? What do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? Or I'm doubting this, I'm doubting that. Some people saying all sorts of things. Some people left Islam in the comment section. They said this is crazy. So what do they do? What do the Muslims do? They disable the comment section. That was the first thing. Mm-hmm. The next thing that they did.
Oh, wow.
Then the next thing they did was they edited the interview to where they took off that last half hour where that discussion took place. Eventually, what they did was they just deleted the interview altogether.
I see them. It's coming.
Yeah.
Would you go on? My grandson.
Wait. They deleted the Yasser Qadhi thing?
Yeah, it's completely deleted.
I'm sure we got a backup somewhere, right?
Oh yeah, we have it. Yeah, we have it.
All right.
But the Muslims, from the Muslim side, Muhammad Hijab and Yasser Qadhi, they used to have it uploaded on their channels. It's completely deleted off their channels now. But yeah, you're right.
Wow, so it never happened.
Yeah.
I remember that. He was basically calling Muhammad Hijab an idiot for even asking the question.
Yeah.
Like multiple times. He's like, yeah, only someone, advanced student of knowledge but not someone who's in. Well, you called him an imbecile, didn't he?
I think later on he did, in like
Yeah,
other
and he's like,
interviews. Yeah,
and he's kind of like, fine, you want it? I'll tell you.
exactly.
All right,
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
and it's no, it's that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
You know what I take from it too is because the Muslims they always compete with each other. What I took from it also is that hijab was trying to get him to look bad so that hijab could gain more followers. That's why he was asking those questions. Okay, here I got a blank piece of paper. What would you write for the Quran? You put him on the spot to make him look bad, just for people to keep on following and more to follow hijab. Thank you.
Yeah, that it totally blew up. I don't know why he thought that was a good idea, but eventually, yeah, it all blew up in their face, and they just got rid of everything. So yeah, they do not discuss these topics. These are not well known, widely discussed, because it creates doubt. It creates problems. And so there is a hadith that talks about variations of the Quran that existed in Muhammad's time, and this is what they call the ahruf, which are not the same thing as the readings that we see today. The readings that we're going to go over today, these are called the readings, or in Arabic, qira'at. But the ahruf, Muslims don't even know what that means. That's why when you hear people talk about it, they just say ahruf because they're using the Arabic word, because there's no translation for it in English, because they don't know what it means. You can't translate if you don't understand what it means. So there's up to 40 opinions about what this word means. They don't know. All they know is that there were some variations in the Quran in Muhammad's time. And one of his best reciters of the Quran, Ubay, actually said, when he found out about this topic, he said, I haven't had this much doubt or disbelief enter my heart since before I was even a Muslim, when he found out about this topic. So from the very beginning, when Muslims were finding about variations of the Quran, variants of the Quran, it shook their faith. So yes, this topic is very earth-shattering to Muslims, and it's a really good way to kind of break in there and show them, look, if your scholars, your teachers, the people you trusted to teach you about Islam, if they lied to you about the Quran and you know the history of the Quran, the variants of the Quran, and they told you, hey, there's only one Quran, you just heard the Muslim scholars say these are lies that we tell the children. Literally, they're lies. Your scholars are lying to you. So you ask the question to the Muslim, if they're lying to you about that, what else could they possibly be lying to you about?
Sure. Yeah.
And we can give
especially
a
something
list.
that big, especially knowing how this is going to affect the faith of the children.
Yeah.
When you finally break that down. I had to comment here, Kufar Phobia wanted to know what did we change? The time change was 2:00 to accommodate our guests. I put that in, and I get it, folks. When you go to read the show notes, you really don't. You just kind of gloss over that. But we had to start early today, and I apologize for not putting that out last week on the show. Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
Yeah. By the way, we're simultaneously streaming this on our channel as well. So just want to.
I'm going to tell you, Jay. Okay, we got 150 people watching the show right now. If we have 20 when we don't have you on here, we're having a great day. So that's
a good day.
I'm looking at this number. I'm like, holy cow! I better not. I hope I comb my hair or something. I didn't want to make sure that we did something right here. Scare people away. But you keep going, brother. You're doing great.
Well, God bless you. Thank you so much. So I just want to say to everyone watching from our channel, yes, we are doing we're guests on this stream today with the Cross and the Crescent. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing here. So if you guys are just tuning in now, that's what we're doing. We're guests on the Cross and Crescent, and we are simultaneously broadcasting it with a really cool new feature on StreamYard on our channel. So, yeah, check them out. The Cross and the Crescent. I'll tag them in the description. And you guys, if you please do subscribe and support.
Thank you. Yeah, we're here. Just to let everybody know, we're here every Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Not 2 p.m., but 4 p.m. normally, unless, of course, I put it in the show note that it's some other time. But okay, let's go. This is great stuff.
So they're normally two hours later than they are right now.
Right.
But
right.
yeah, they accommodated us. Thank you for that. So here's a difference here. Let's just get right into some differences. Now, one of the things that you and I had discussed before I came on the show were differences that would impact Islam, differences that would make a difference, right? And so I said, yeah, I can definitely bring you some examples of that. And so this is the difference. This is a variant that makes a difference. Okay. In chapter 2, verse 184 in the Quran, chapter 2, verse 184, what you see here is a ruling during Ramadan where you're supposed to be fasting, where if you get sick or if you travel and you can't fast, you have to make up the days that you were supposed to be fasting. So let's say you miss a day, you have to make that up. You miss 2 days, you have to make that up. Because either you're sick or you're on a journey or whatever other reason. Now, it says that you make redemption by feeding a poor man in the Hafs reading. So this is a legal ruling. If you as a Muslim miss fasting during Ramadan, you can redeem your missed fast by feeding a poor person. Now, we go to other versions of the Quran, like the Warsh version, and instead of poor person in Arabic, miskin, poor person, singular, it turns into masakin, poor people. So in one version of the Quran, it says in order to redeem your missed fasting, you feed a poor person, one poor person. In the other Quran, it says, no, it's not one person. It's in Arabic, the way that Arabic works, you have singular, you have dual, and then they give a plural, which is 3+. So you have to feed at least 3 people. So one Quran is saying you miss a fast, you feed at least one person. One of them is saying you feed a fast, you feed at least 3 people. So this changes how you practice Islam, depending on which Quran you're reading.
Wait, no, that's like huge because
Yeah.
That's like real huge because
Yeah.
I mean, just in the way they pray, okay, it is such a detailed thing where if you miss one step in prayer, your whole prayer experience is rejected by Allah. So think about this, people. If you're reading from which Quran is right? Is it feed one person or feed 3 people? Because if
Right.
it's feed 3 people, you're only feeding one person, then you're doomed, right? I mean,
Exactly.
you're pretty much doomed at that point. Wow, that's heavy. That's huge.
And what we have been if you all don't know, Paul Sutcliffe has a YouTube channel called the Sutcliffean Report, and he has been going through the reliance of the traveler, the Sharia, and we just, as a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, we finished up all of the rules, laws, the Sharia that deals with Ramadan. And this was one of the things that I remember we were talking about, but we didn't know that there was a variant reading on this. And
Yep.
you probably know, Jai, but I mean, majority of people don't realize is how many exceptions and rules they have just on Ramadan, and having to make up days, and what was sort of annuls if you tried to make something up, what would annul that and cause you to have to do it again? It is just nuts.
Yeah.
The legal system that these people have to live under. You talk about straining out a gnat and swallowing a cat. Try reading that book I got back there. That it'll drive you absolutely insane.
Absolutely. So
It's no wonder that they don't know which way to turn. It's like they're frozen. Do I do this? Do I do that? I don't know.
Or annuls, would annul the prayer, like farting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get down in the gutter with Allah on this, but that's one of the things that annuls what they do. It's absolutely insane.
I mean, you say that, but it gets into details on that to the point of if even to the point where if it makes a noise or if it has a smell, there are different rulings on no, seriously, there are different rulings on that. So if there's no smell to it and there's no noise, then like okay, that's one ruling. Then there's another ruling if there's a noise, and there's it's like they really do have these rulings, and you can listen. There's YouTube videos. We have Muslim scholars actually explaining what to do in those situations.
Okay, we got
You should
it
have
on
the guy.
Amazon.
You're gonna try to pass it off on the guy. It was pointing the finger.
Wait, we gotta go. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'll bring the video camera so you can get the whole beheading experience. Go into the masjid when they're doing their Friday prayers with the can of $9.99 fart spray from Amazon. Okay, and yeah. Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun.
All right, let's get back on top. Okay, let's get back.
Okay, but that's just
crazy.
That's just to your point. Like the legalism is just they literally have like a ruling for every little thing, So this is a huge difference. And so here's another one that comes down. No, by the way, these do come into these legal discussions. So the jurists who make these different, so you have like the 4 different schools of jurisprudence. They actually will argue their different positions based on variant readings, and I'm going to show you examples of that. So let's go to this one here, chapter 5, verse 6. Okay, and by the way, you might see that the numbering is a little different. Like if you look really closely, on the left side it says verse 6, and then on the right side it says verse 7. There's a difference because of how they count the Bismillah. Some Qurans count it as a verse, some don't. So you're going to see differences in numbers, which, by the way, for Shabir Ali and other Muslims who use the 19 argument, that completely messes up your numbering and your count system. So just saying. Yeah. All right. So this one is a very, very minute detail to us. Like you might think, okay, why does this even matter? But to a Muslim, it's very important. So the difference here between the 2 readings is literally one little vowel mark. There's an A vowel and then there's an E vowel. And in one reading, we get one ruling, in another reading get another ruling. So one ruling, now this is about how to do your purification, your cleansiness ritual called wudu. This is how you are pure, in a state of purity before God. So this is very important to Muslims. So this is like, will your prayers be accepted? Can you pick up the Quran? Things like that. Like this is extremely important. This is, are you pure? Are you ritually pure before God? So in one reading, it says, when it comes down to washing your feet, one reading says, okay, when you make yourself pure, you have to wash your feet. Okay. The other reading says, actually, you wipe your feet. So washing and wiping. And this is a huge difference between, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims, they differ on this point on terms of being ritually clean. One washes their feet, the other one just wipes their feet. And this makes a big difference in Islamic practice, because this comes down to, are you in a state where God will accept your prayers? Are you in a state where you can pick up the physical Quran? This depends on if you're ritually pure or not. So one says that you have to wash your feet to be pure. The other one says you have to wipe your feet. Again, to us, it's a minute difference. But to the Muslims, you have here, I have an article here by a Muslim scholar, and he's quoting another classical Muslim scholar from the 10th century who claimed that these 2 readings are akin to 2 separate verses. Why? Because they give you 2 completely different legal rulings. If you read one Quran to be ritually pure before God, when it comes down to washing your feet, you have to wash your feet. Now you're pure before God. Another one, you just have to wipe them. And yes, Muslims have, I can explain the details on wiping and washing and all. I'm sure you had to go through that when you're reading the book, but these things are very important to Muslims, and it affects exactly how you practice Islam. So how are you pure before God? Well, it depends on which Quran you're reading.
This, by the way, just excited a memory. Do you remember that dude Milkshake? He was the rapper. He now lives in Saudi Arabia. Well, his name wasn't really Milkshake, but they confused him with Milkshake. The dude's name was Milkshake or whatever, and he was some English rapper. That's
Oh,
for some reason all these
sounds
reverts are
familiar.
rappers. Yeah, but he lives in Saudi Arabia. Whatever. He dresses in like tracksuits all the time. He's a Muslim sheikh. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he was talking about this very thing. He went to Lebanon to because his wife's family's from Lebanon, so he went to Lebanon and he saw these Muslims. Evidently they read the other verse, the one that would just wipe their feet, and they were just wiping their feet with the cloth, and he went to go correct them, brothers, and they were going to kill him, and his wife's mother or his mother-in-law had to get him out of the airport, and she's like, no, they take this very serious, you can't do that. You just got
Exactly.
killed for this. I mean, they'll kill each other over this. This is like weird stuff, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Seriously,
Wow.
it's a really big thing. Like you said, you know, if they see, I remember there's a video when Ali Dawah was trying to teach Muslims how to do like this purification, like the wudu, and when he came to washing his nose, his sheikh, or the guy who was teaching him, had to stop him like 3 times during the video, and he's like, "No, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong." And Ali Dawah, he's been like a Muslim for 10 years at this point, and he doesn't even know how to wash his nose according to Islamic ritual properly. So,
but he sells the dawah rugs, the prayer rugs that teach you how to do this.
Exactly. So he can't even wash his nose properly, which the reason why that matters again is because, again, if you are in a state of purity, well, now if you pray, your prayers are accepted before God. You know, if you're in a state of purity, well, you can pick up the Quran. You know, there's all these different things where you need to be ritually pure in order to do. And depends on which Quran you're reading. Are you ritually pure if you wipe your feet or if you wash your feet? And that was a great example from the milkshake. If you could send me that sometime, that'd be great. I'd love to use that because it really illustrates the point that how seriously Muslims take this. Like it changes how you practice Islam. It changes how you're pure before God in Islam.
Well, I just looked this up in the Reliance of the Traveler, and here it says that you are to wash your feet up to and including the ankle bones 3 times. Okay. And then I was looking at another, because I did a search on the online part, and it talks about wiping. You can wipe your shoes or sandals, but you have to wash your feet.
Right.
That's according to the approved Al-Azhar University version of the Sharia. So they're going with the washing. Which version is that in? Did you say that was Hafs, or is there a difference? Between, this is the difference between the Hafs and the wash.
Exactly. Yep. Huffs and waters. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, not Huffs and waters. No. This is the difference between. This is in one of the readers. His name is Ibn Kathir. So Ibn Kathir. This is one of the not the commentator, but one of the readers. And in his reading, it's wiping.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, it changes how you practice Islam, and being in that state of purity is extremely important for Muslims. You need to know when you are pure, when you're ritually pure. And you know, it's really sad because, like you said, it's like there's so many parallels you can draw to, Jesus's words towards the Pharisees.
Right,
saying like you're making people twice the sons of hell as you. Like you're going out and you're doing all these traditions, you're putting all these weights on their back that you guys yourself can't even do. And that's exactly what these Muslims.
Yeah, that was like the first thing that came to my head when we start going into small intricate things. Is Christ? This was his biggest criticisms were for the Pharisees and the Sadducees who forced this type of ridiculousness on the believers.
Yeah. Yep. So here we have a younger version of Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawah about 7 years back, and they have a sheikh here, and this is when Hatun, Tosh, and Jay Smith brought the 26 Qurans to Speaker's Corner. So it's been updated since then. I think the number's at 37 or so. And back then it was 26, and they brought to Speaker's Corner, and the Muslims lost their minds. So what do? They went to their sheikh, and he issues a challenge to people. He said he admits, he says, yes, there are different Qurans. Yes, there are. but they just expand the meaning of the verse. They give more comprehension, they give more glorification. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then he issues a challenge here, and he says, "This is what he says."
Would you ever find a contradiction in this? I personally challenge anyone to try to bring one qira'ah where meaning contradicts another meaning.
All right. So meaning contradicts another meaning. Are there any contradictions? Now we're going to kind of get off of the legal differences, which, by the way, there are many legal differences in Islam. We can go back to that maybe another time, but they're literally dissertations that people write on the legal differences based on the variant Qurans. So there's many, and it's when you start getting into it, you're like, whoa, it's a lot more than I thought. So if you ever want to go back to just the legal rulings and how it affects Islamic practice, we can definitely do that. But let's get into right now, are there any contradictions between the readings? All right. So in chapter 10, verse 16, it says, "Say, if Allah had willed, I would not have recited it to you, nor would he have made it known to you." Now, this is Allah saying, Muhammad, you say this. So in other words, he has the Quran, and he's saying, if Allah had willed, I would not have recited it to you, nor would he have made it known to you. And then, for I had remained among you a lifetime before it, then will you not reason? Okay, so check this out. Go to another Quran, and the easiest way to create a contradiction is to just negate the first sentence that you make. So like, I have an apple, I do not have an apple. You just add a negation. Okay. You can't both have an apple and not have an apple in the same time in the same sense. You just add a negation and you have a contradiction. So in the Hafs reading, it says, he would not have made it known to you. In Qunbal, which is one of the readers of Ibn Kathir, it says he would have made it known to you. So check this out. We have go to Al Jalalain on altafsir.com, and you're going to see here, nor would he have made it known to you. And it says that this is for negation. And he says there's a variant reading which says he would have made it known to you. So check it out. There's a little contradiction here. One says that Allah would not have made it known to you, and then one says that Allah would have made it known to you. So do we meet the challenge? Is this a contradiction?
Yep. Challenge made. Challenge done.
Yep.
Mm.
Exactly.
I'm looking at the Bridges, my new app that I just got, this Bridges translation
nice.
app. Yeah. And it
Yeah,
says,
let's see what he says.
It's, well, here's, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see? You can't. Never mind.
Right.
All right. Here's what it says. It says,
say, might be able to give you a big screen if you want to.
Well, here's what it says. It says, had Allah willed it, I would not have read it to you, and he would not have informed you about it. Okay. The word not is in red. So if you click on it, it says Al-Bazi. Yeah, it says Al-Bazi is in one of his narrations read it as, and he would have informed you about it. So this app is cool because it actually provides you the variant readings. It's kind of like, I don't know, a Bible that has the what's the word I'm looking for, where we identify
apparatus.
We have the variants listed there, not the index. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not the index.
Like in the footnote section, like on the apparatus.
Yeah. It's right. So here they're finally getting around to doing that for their own Quran, which is what we would all in this hemisphere call progress.
Yeah, well, you know what though? So that's good. I agree with you on that. But you know what? He only sticks to the 10 canonical readings because remember, these were imposed politically by Muslims who had political power and political pull. So there are other Quran readings that Muslims will say, these are called, they use the word in Arabic shawaz, which means irregular or anomalies, and you have hundreds and hundreds of different readings for different verses. So if you were to really take a critical approach, like I can show you an example. In just chapter 1 verse 4 in the Quran, chapter 1 verse 4, between the canonical readings, between the 10 canonical readings, there's two variants there. You have one that says the owner of the day of judgment, the king of day of judgment, and then owner of the day of judgment. Or so those are just two readings. But if you start to look at all the other ones that we have access to, but they're not considered canonical, there's over 18. I think there's over 20 readings for just one word.
Wow.
Yeah, just for one word, you have over 20 readings.
Yeah, this one that you just mentioned on this new app that I got, it says Master of the Day of Recompense, and then the variant reading is the King of the Day of Recompense, which is, there's a huge difference between a master and a king. So there you go.
Right. Yeah. So we'll get into that difference, but I'm just saying you have differences in just the canonicals, which is great that they're starting to make that available in English through that translation. But if you were to go and try to make a critical edition where you accept all of the variant readings, which by the way this exists in Arabic, they have literally encyclopedias like Muwajjam, like where they have tons and tons. Like I said, in just one verse in one word, you can have up to 20 different readings for it. So hopefully these things will be translated into English as well. They'll be more well known. So here's one contradiction, and I think we have a clip from Yasser Qadi to get another contradiction in chapter 11 verse 81. Now 11 verse 81, I think this is a great example to show a contradiction between the two readings. The other one is a great one as well, but I'll tell you why this one's a really great one. I'll save the surprise for when we get there. So this is talking about Lot and Lot's wife. And so it says, Lot, the angel said, "O Lot, indeed, we are messengers of your Lord. They will never reach you. So set out with your family during a portion of the night, and let not any among you look back except your wife. Indeed, she will be struck by that which strikes them." Okay. So the phrase where it says "except your wife," that changes depending on which Quran you're reading. So just to kind of simplify what's going on in the Arabic, I'll just use these arrows and show what's going on here. So in the majority of readings, he's commanded not to bring his wife. So in Arabic, the grammar dictates that you read the sentence like this: set out with your family during a portion of the night, except your wife. So set out with your family, except your wife. All right. So Lot's commanded to leave his home, leave during a portion of the night, bring his family with him, but do not bring your wife. Okay. Now we go to another reading where you have Ibn Kathir and Abu Amr, where the diacritical marks change, just little tiny dots, but it completely changes the syntax of the sentence. And so this one says, set out with your family during a portion of the night, and let not any among you look back except your wife. So in other words, she's coming with you, but she's going to look back.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first reading, don't even take her with you. Leave with your family. Don't bring her with you. In the second reading, take your family. Don't exclude your wife. Nothing about excluding your wife. And don't let anyone turn back except your wife. So in other words, she's going to come with you, but she's going to turn back. So the question is, what was Lot commanded to do? Was he commanded to bring his wife or to leave to leave her? Depends on which Quran you're reading. Now check this out. We have Yasser Qadi introducing who this scholar is. Listen to what he says.
The teacher of our teachers, Sheikh Shanqiti.
So this is the teacher of his teachers. One more time.
The teacher of our teachers, Sheikh Shanqiti.
All right, let's see what Sheikh Shanqiti says. He says, there is a contradiction in the verse. So here you have a Muslim scholar, 20th century Muslim scholar. Yasser Qadhi says he's the teacher of our teachers. This is like one of the teachers. He taught someone like bin Baz, for example, like the one of the muftis of Saudi Arabia. He's very influential, huge scholar. And he's saying there is a contradiction between these two. Because why? He says one of the reading indicates that he did not travel with her, and the other reading indicates that he did travel with her, and that none turned back except her. Okay. So here we have.
Let me just point out something about this Bible app.
Bible?
What's this thing called? Bible translation. What is this called again? This app that you told me to. What?
Oh, the Bridges. Oh, you're talking about
Bridges. There we go. Bridges. Yeah. Okay. Bridges. Okay. So I went to this on Bridges, and Bridges has all over the place these where it highlights the variants that evidently are there or whatever. But when you go to click on the one that is a variant here, it says, but not your wife. Wife, of course, is in red because there's differences. You go to click on this and nothing is happening. It's like it's dead. They're not letting anybody look at it.
I wonder why.
Exactly. That's, I mean, and that's kind of like a bait that's just like about as obvious as you can get as far as the contradiction is concerned. And they're not, you know, they might say, well, we admit it's there, but we're not going to tell you why it's there.
Yeah. Exactly. And as you can see, you know, these works are all in Arabic. We had to translate these into English because, you know, like, listen to Yasser Qadhi one more time. Who is this guy? Who is Sheikh Shanqiti? He says, what?
The teacher of our teachers, Sheikh Shanqiti.
He's the teacher of their teachers. And he's admitting, yeah, there's a contradiction. There's a contradiction. So yeah, we have contradictions. And it doesn't stop there. There's more. Now, just in terms of just differences in terms of different meanings, here's another one in the Quran where you have to ask the question, what's going on here? What's going on? So Moses said to Pharaoh, you have already known that none has sent down these signs except the Lord of the heavens and the earth as evidence. And indeed, I think, O Pharaoh, that you are destroyed. So Moses is saying to Pharaoh, you have already known. And he's using that knowledge that Pharaoh has to justify the destruction that's about to come upon him. Go to another reading. Here's Al-Jalalain comments on this reading. Instead of saying, you know, a variant reads, I know. So let's go back and read it in that way. And Moses said, I have already known that none has sent down these signs except the Lord of the heavens and the earth, etc., as evidence. So who is the one that knows? Is it Moses or is it Pharaoh? Or is it both? Did Moses say the same thing in two different, just one slight little vowel difference here? It's a question for the Muslims. They can answer. So yeah, so that's another difference here. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that before we go to the next example. Actually, why don't you check Fadl Suleiman, the British translation for 17102. See what he says.
I have. It's not popping up. There's nothing coming up.
Oh, he doesn't have it. Yeah,
well, it's in red. It says, you have most surely known that none sent these down except the Lord. And when you go and click on the red, nothing. Wait, no, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. It did come up. It says, he said, I have most surely known. So it does come up with the variant.
All right. So yeah, you see there's a difference there. Who has this knowledge, or do both of them have the knowledge? We don't know. Who knows the knowledge? If he's having a conversation with Pharaoh, he could have only said one of those things at that time. So did he say I knew, or did he say you know? Well, it depends on which Quran you're reading. Here's one that is very troubling for Muslims. So this one in chapter 37, verse 12, if you want to pull that up while we get into it on the British translation, see what he says there. It says, nay, you, O Muhammad, wondered while they mock. Another reading of the Quran, for example, Hamza, doesn't say you, Muhammad, wondered. It says I, Allah, I wondered. I was shocked. And so you have a Muslim scholar who's commentating on the verse in his commentary, this big commentary that he has. And he describes the trouble that this brings to Muslims. He says, the reading that attributes the surprise to Allah, where Allah says, I am surprised. So one of them is saying, Muhammad, you're surprised, Muhammad. And the other one is saying, I'm surprised. Allah am surprised. They're saying that's impossible because surprise only occurs in a state that which ignorance of a thing's description. And it is known that it's impossible for Allah to be ignorant. So this is one that can create a theological problem. And what he goes on to do is he tries to fix the problem and say, oh, the word surprise when it's applied to Allah doesn't really mean surprise. It's kind of like when you say Allah prays or Allah is the best of all deceivers. You know, those don't really mean that he's the best. Like, you know, it's like all of a sudden when it applies to Allah, the words take different meanings. So he tries to explain it away, but he's honest in saying that this does create a problem for Muslims, a theological problem. How can you say that Allah is surprised or shocked at something? How?
Well, not only that, I don't know. To me, I'm reading this. It's confusing Muhammad with Allah, and Allah with Muhammad. In other words, they're like Allah's Muhammad or Muhammad's Allah. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
It's clear. I would say this is clearly putting deity and humanity on either putting deity on the human figure Muhammad, or putting humanity on the Allah figure. And this is, dude, this is huge, dude. I'm going over it with you, and I'm like, wow, you just click on it. It's got all kinds of cool little features too.
Oh, you got the app? Oh yeah. Yes, it's good, man. Yeah, you're gonna like it. I'm telling you.
Save it, mark it, notify. Oh, we can play it.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
That's awesome. Oh, we're gonna make clips. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be great. Yeah. So there's another website that if you want, we can, you know, they played in different versions. I don't know if he has different versions available, but definitely you can have a lot of fun with that app. And honestly, just go through any chapter in the Quran, and you're gonna see all the different variants. And you can, I mean, there's thousands. There's thousands. So there's gonna be some that you know are not covered. I mean, most of them we're just covering a tiny fraction of them right here. But if you download that app and you look for them, you're gonna find thousands of differences. Maybe some of them even bigger and more, you know, contradictory.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
It's okay. You just want to be careful on when you play the Quran, because sometimes they'll do like what are they called, copyright claims or whatever, because they copyright the sound and stuff. But you should be Yeah, I did this before. I played Muslim reciting the Quran just so that I could show, like, it's not just me saying that. You don't have to trust me or how I'm reading it. Listen to how he's reciting it. And then I got a copyright claim. Copyright claim doesn't really do much. It just means you can't monetize the video, which I don't do anyway. But you know, if you do that kind of thing, it can mess you up. So you just be, you know, yeah, they gotta be careful with that. But yeah, so yeah, thousands and thousands of differences. Like he said, 30% of them, in his opinion, completely changes the meaning. So yeah, let's go back to chapter 1, verse 4. And I want to show you something really interesting, what At-Tabari says. So At-Tabari is a 10th century scholar who some reports say that he was a teacher of Ibn Mujahid. Ibn Mujahid, the guy who canonized the 7 readings. Some people say that he was a teacher of him. There are some reports that say that. And At-Tabari actually had his own book on the readings of the Quran, where he had, I think it was either 20 or 20, I think it was 20 different readings. It's 20 or 25. I have to, if someone knows, just write it in the chat, we'll correct it. But it's either 20 or 25, and one of the two. And it's been lost to us, though, through history. We don't actually have it. We don't have access to it. The only reason why we know it exists, though, is because At-Tabari makes reference to it throughout his works, his commentaries and history and things like that. So 95% of the Muslims recite the Quran in the reading that says that Allah is the owner of the day of judgment. Maliki Yawmiddin, the owner of the day of judgment. And there's a small percentage, like maybe like 3% of Muslims in the world, North Africa, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, those areas where they recite it a slightly different way. Instead of saying Maliki Yawmiddin, they say Maliki Yawmiddin. So the first vowel, Malik, and then Malik. Difference in it changes the word. One of them means owner, the other one's mean king. And so you see it reflected in the British translation. But here's the thing. Al-Tabari didn't live in a time where those 7 readings were enforced on people. So he had the freedom to disagree with them. It's kind of funny. If you go to Al-Tabari's readings and his in his commentaries, and you look what he says about these different readings, he'll often, I shouldn't say often, but there's about 60 or so examples. No, actually, that's Ibn Mujahid. Actually, Al-Tabari has a number of examples where he rejects what later became canonical readings. So I'll give you an example here. Al-Tabari says that the first reading, the reading of king, out of the 2 interpretations, according to this verse, is the more correct reading. The more correct reading. So he's saying that the reading of king is the most correct reading, which means that the other one is inferior, which means that he didn't view these as Muhammad said it like this, Muhammad said it like that. Muhammad said it like this, Allah said it like this, Allah said it like that. No, he viewed it completely differently to how Muslims view it today. He didn't say that Allah said on both ways or Muhammad said on both ways. He said this is the more correct reading, which means what? That the way Muslims recite this verse today, 95% of Muslims, how they recite this verse, Al-Tabari is saying that they are reciting it in a defective, inferior reading. And he gives a reason why. Like, it's a pretty logical reason why too, actually. He says, the reading of king is in the meaning of having sovereignty. It ascribes to him exclusive sovereignty and the virtue of kingship over the other reading, which is the owner. And this is his reasoning here. He says, it is known that there is no king without him being an owner, but an owner may not be a king. Right? That makes sense. So he's saying, look, there's 2 readings, the owner of the day of judgment and the king of the day of judgment. He's like, look, if you're a king, you're automatically an owner. So the meaning's already in there. But if you're an owner, you're not necessarily a king. You can own something. It doesn't mean you're a king of that. It doesn't mean you're a king. So he's saying that the more correct reading, contrary to what Muslims say today, that, oh, they're both from Allah, they're both divinely inspired. He's saying, no, the more correct reading is the reading of king. So 95% of the Muslims, when they recite this in their daily prayers, according to Al-Tabari, they're reading a defective, inferior reading.
The Quran is defective and inferior?
Yep, exactly. According to Al-Tabari.
That's like some serious killing jihadi words right there, buddy.
Yeah.
That's some serious Takfiri stuff.
Exactly.
Wow, this is incredible stuff. Let me ask you a question. So you interact with Muslims, more so, whatever, more so than I do and everything. What has been the response from Muslims with this information? Or are they just completely shut it down? Or are they just ignore? You know what I mean? What's been their response? I mean, that you would notice?
Honestly, most of the Muslims, I've had a couple Muslims admit that there's a contradiction, like in the 1181. But other than those couple examples of Muslims who admit there's a contradiction, most of them will say they'll do the thing where they'll be like, "Oh, I got to get back to you on that." That's mostly what they do. I got to get back to you on that, and they never get back to you. So I don't know what exactly runs through their head when they see this stuff, but you can imagine that this must really shake them up, and it changes their view of the Quran. And just imagine just a simple discussion. You just bring this one example up, for example. Like you said, like if I pull out the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 1, and I go to the Gospel according to Mark, chapter 1, verse 1, could you ever imagine a Christian saying, oh, this one is more correct than this one? No, you don't talk about that about the Bible. You don't say Mark is more correct than John or John's more correct than Mark. They're both divinely inspired by God. This is God-breathed word. So you have to kind of acknowledge that Al-Tabari didn't actually view these variant readings as divinely inspired. I mean, he might have had a canon of readings which he considered to be inspired. He might have had a set of readings that he said, okay, this one's from Allah, and even though there's differences in readings, they're both from Allah, whatever. But here's an example where he clearly says that one reading is superior and the other one's inferior. So, yeah, most Muslims, honestly, I have discussions that from like Clubhouse. I actually have some discussions from even back from Pal Talk where I have recorded, which I plan to upload on the new channel here in the future, and you'll see how they react to this stuff. A lot of them, they have no idea that it exists, and oftentimes what happens is they get a Muslim who's more knowledgeable than them and just kind of like tries to hush, get them away, like hush them up and say, hey, stop talking to him, and come to me and let me, whatever. I don't know what they say to them in private, but I never usually end up seeing them again. Like, it's
wow. So it's
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I feel. Because this is so integral. I mean, to modern day Muslims, like like you were saying before, earlier Muslims, they didn't have a problem with it. You know what I mean? It is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
But this is what they do on their dawah. Convince them. This is perfectly preserved down to each letter dot. All the Qurans that say no. And then when they hear this, must be earth shattering. So, but
Yeah.
they're already committed. So they're like, and they can't admit they made a mistake. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like the scientific miracle thing. They
Oh,
were
yeah.
pushing that for decades, and all of a sudden it blew up on them. And you still hear Muslims talk about, oh no, the scientific miracles, blah blah. Yeah, but hardly any anymore. But even that, I mean, it's still they're still in it to win it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. All the things that they were told, okay, are
Right.
turning out to be lies, and a lot of them still stay. Some leave, don't get me wrong, probably more leave than actually stay, but the ones that are just really committed, I just think they're YouTube grifters and they just want to make the dollars,
Oh, yeah.
But,
Oh, I just remembered something as you're talking, and David Wood actually brought this point up, and it's like, yeah, it's a great point. So check it out. So when it comes to New Testament textual criticism, and you have like a scholar who's comparing, trying to determine which is the original reading, and so the methodology that they use is the reading that makes less sense is probably more probable than the one that makes more sense, because their reasoning is it makes more sense that a scribe later on will write something that makes more sense because he thinks he's trying to like fix it, or trying to like, oh, maybe this is what it originally said, because that makes more sense with the context. So what they do is they'll look for readings that make less sense, and they'll say, well, that's probably more probably what the original said because it makes less sense. But you see what Al-Tabari is doing here. He's doing the opposite of that. He's saying that the reading that makes more sense is most likely, that's the correct reading. So the methodology is like backwards to how New Testament scholars think of these issues.
wow. So let me get this straight. So the Muslim methodology is to do the reverse. So in other words,
Yeah.
The one that makes more sense is the correct reading,
Yeah.
even though it had to correct the inferior reading. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's backwards. This whole thing is like so backwards. It's opposite world.
It's
It
totally
really
opposite
is.
world. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
continue on. Too good.
Yeah, I know he made that point, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like, it's kind of like a light went off. I'm like, "Yeah, that's right." And of course, there's other differences as well. Like, as Christians, we don't say like all the variant readings like are individually inspired. We say no, God inspired His word, whatever was originally written, that's inspired. And so we don't think like the example I gave earlier, Mark 1:41. We're not saying both, angered and compassion are both, that's what was originally written and they're both, sent down. No, we're saying no, one of them is what was originally written and inspired by the Holy Spirit. And we have that. We have the entire Bible preserved in all of our tradition, all of our manuscript tradition. It's 100% there. There's nothing outside of it. Daniel Wallace uses this analogy, and he says it's like having a jigsaw puzzle, like a 100-piece jigsaw puzzle. And it's not that we have 90 pieces. We have 110 pieces. So we have all the 100 pieces. We just kind of sort through those 10, see what, which one fits, which one fits. So we have God's word. It's fully there. No, it hasn't been corrupted. Has been no missing at all. We just have these extra 10 pieces that we kind of work through but those extra 10 pieces, though, they don't change the meaning or anything like that. And actually a more accurate analogy would be like, less than 1%, but you won't be able to fit that into a jigsaw, kind of analogy, but yeah.
Well, I was going to say one other thing. I'm sorry, somebody wanted to say something. Who was that? Was that Connie? No. Okay. What I was gonna say is when you were on Avery's show, it's been 2 weeks now, a couple weeks ago, when we were talking about how do people respond to these type of things. The way that they respond is to, number one, filibuster, and number two,
Insult.
well, they insult. This is true. They're always going to insult. Like they were telling you, well, you don't speak Arabic, or you don't know Arabic, Jai. Okay, whatever. But
no, actually, check out the video that we had. The Muslim was like, "Oh, this guy's a dirty Arab," and then the other one
that's
was
right.
like,
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, he
Yeah.
called you a dirty
Yeah,
Arab,
he's-
right? Yeah.
So
But
so
what they
that
would
guy
do-
actually, he's just like, I don't want to talk to this guy. I don't want to talk to. So yeah, that's another thing that they do is they just, I don't know, maybe because they're just intimidated by the fact that they don't actually know this topic. So they're just like, I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to talk, and so they just insult. But you know, for me, if I were introduced to information that I haven't heard before, and well, first of all, I wouldn't jump into a stream to debate it. Like, I don't know why they jump into streams to debate things that they don't know about, but that's them. I'm not. I mean, but let's say if we were in that situation, yeah, you have to take a humble approach, and you're like, okay, let me see all the evidence, and let's see where it leads us. But what they do is they'll come in. I'm not saying all Muslims do this, but obviously, you know, the ones who do, it's like you have to wonder why they don't know about the topic, but they come in to debate it. It's like, well, what's the purpose of that? You're just making you're making yourself look bad.
What they're doing, what I found that what they were doing is they were providing like a 3 or 4 minute long non-answer to what you were talking about. They completely talk about something, you know, they try to redirect it, and then when you cut them off because they're sermonizing, they're making a speech that has nothing to do with what they were supposed to be answering, they get all upset and say that, you know, you're being unfair to them because you're cutting them off.
Right.
And it's the most frustrating thing to watch, but it's also the most entertaining thing to watch, is to see how many people don't actually know these things. And you know, you're throwing all kinds of things out here that I had no idea were in there. So this is just like you know, this is one of those videos that you're just gonna. Oh, by the way, like, share, subscribe. There we go. Yeah, like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all those things. Not only on Jai's channel, but come over to the Cross and the Crescent and double tap on mine. Okay, Jai, go ahead. You're
up. Please do like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate the support on the Cross and the Crescent as well. If you guys want to go over there and show some love, please do subscribe and support them. All right, so we have now. You might hear Muslims bring up like the ending of Mark, or the woman caught in adultery, or 1 John 5:7, and you might hear them say, hey, look, yeah, we might have variants, but we don't have anything like that where, like, you know, there's a whole ending, you know, or a whole story kind of omitted or whatever, or like is it original, is it not original? You know, we don't have that. Well, okay, let's get into that. So these are 2 extra chapters in the Quran that do not exist in the Quran today. What do I mean by that? If we go to Asayuti's book, and we have it here in Arabic on the right, and in English we have translation, and we have the links and everything like that. These 2 extra chapters were found in the Qur'ans of Ubay and in the Qur'ans of Ibn Abbas. These are the extra chapters. There's other companions as well, but check out what the companion Anas said. Anas bin Malik. He said, by Allah, these 2 were sent down none other than from heaven. None other than from heaven. So there's these 2 extra chapters. Here they are again. 2 chapters. I know it's not very clear, but it's saying you alone we worship, and you alone we pray, and et cetera, et cetera. It's 2 chapters. They actually call them surahs, and they appear in the Qur'ans of some of the companions like Ubay, like Ibn Abbas, and like Anas. Many others as well, but those are just to name some. So they actually have 2 chapters, 2 whole chapters, right here again, 2 whole chapters that they had in their Qur'ans that Muslims do not have in the Quran today. You're not going to find these in the Quran today. But companions of Muhammad used to have them.
How many verses are in those chapters? Do we know?
Yeah, you have right here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, and then
Oh, there we
1,
are.
2, yeah. So there you
Okay,
go.
so this isn't just like the woman caught in adultery, which is how many verses? 15, 20 verses?
Well, yeah, you can add these up, and it's probably probably the same. If you're counting the words, let's say if you're counting the words, doing a word count, maybe it's like equal in words or something. Or maybe not exactly, but either way, what we're saying is they do have some companions who have extra chapters right here, and some of them who don't have it. So they actually do have to struggle with this, and they have to say, okay, are these actually originally part of the Quran? Now, obviously, a Muslim today, they have something that's even stronger than the Quran. It's called consensus. Muslim consensus is the overruling power in Islam. This is the most powerful rule in Islam. It's called consensus, and so this can even overrule the Quran itself. So if you have a consensus saying these are not part of the Quran, well then who are you to disagree? You have to agree with the consensus. But back in Muhammad's time, when there wasn't this consensus about what the Quran was, because Muhammad in his time didn't even compile the Quran, there wasn't even compilation of the Quran. So different companions had different Qurans. There wasn't this, ruling. You had Abu Bakr, and you had Uthman, who made these canonizations, compilations of the Quran. Later times, Ibn Mujahid, etc. But yeah, you don't have any Muslims who have these in their Quran today. But if you want to look historically, should these be considered part of the corpus of the Quran? There's a Islamic scholar of Islam who said, his name is Sean Anthony, and he says, yes, these should be part of the corpus of the Quran. He's like, I acknowledge that Muslims, they go by the consensus, and that, they go by what the majority of Muslims say, what the Quran is and what the Quran isn't. But if we want to talk about historically, would this be part of the corpus of the Quran? He said, as a scholar of Islam, he says, yes, it is. And he has an article, a whole article on this. So yeah, we have another prayer called al-Qanut, which are supplications that Muslims might know today. They're now considered like supplications, but you do have people like Ali, for example, who said that it's part of the Quran. So this is another prayer that Muslims say is a prayer today that actually was part of the Quran. And one of them is someone called Abu Abdul Rahman as-Salami. And who is he? Well, he appears in the chain of Hafs, the chain of narration for Hafs. So this guy right here, you have Hafs on the top, and then to the right, second line on the right, you have Asim. So Hafs gets it from Asim, and Asim gets it from Abi Abdul Rahman. And Abi Abdul Rahman's Quran, he had this thing that Muslims consider to be a prayer today, which you can see translated here in the blue font. He had it as part of his Quran, and he said that Ibn Masud used to recite it as well. As
so how many? Can you go back a slide? How many removed is that from Uthman? How many is that? 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So
5? No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 removed from Uthman himself.
Well, so this is actually saying that Abu Abdul Rahman actually learned from Uthman, learned from Ali, learned from Zayd. But we actually have a hadith that says that he didn't.
I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. So they're including Ali and Uthman and Zayed and Ubay all together there, as far as who did Asim learn from.
Exactly, and then you have Muhammad at the. I just said Mo because too much to it.
Okay. Still, that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 removed, and it's all this is all oral traditions before it is. Am I correct on that? It's all oral tradition, or is this a written tradition that they got from Uthman?
Well, yeah. So after Uthman, you have this written text, and then, but Abu Abdul Rahman, he actually had additional chapter in his Quran. He used to have this additional chapter. So you wonder, like, it's not just like the holes in the standard narrative. They're even bigger when you examine this chain of narration here, because Muslims are so big on the chain of narration. They say, hey, we know who this guy is and who he recited from and who he recited from all the way back to Muhammad. But if you actually examine this, you're going to see Hafs is not accepted in hadith because he's considered to be a liar and a thief. Asim is considered to be someone with a terrible memory, that to the point where you have one Muslim scholar who says anyone whose name is Asim has a terrible memory because this guy had such a bad memory. So when it comes to hadith, these guys are rejected flat out. No one takes them seriously for hadith, but they take them for the Quran. Why is that? If he's a liar,
the house guy?
Yeah.
Wasn't the house guy a thief too? Yeah, he was a thief and a liar.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. But so real quick question. The other side, if you go forward, that actually shows the one that has the prayer.
Yeah.
Do we have any written manuscripts that have this? Do you know of? I mean, like ancient Quranic manuscripts that would have this or hint at this? Curious.
So we don't have the manuscripts, but this might come as a shock, but we also don't have any manuscripts for Hafs either.
What?
Yeah. Do you know in 1924 when they made this Hafs edition of the Quran, do you know that they didn't consult one single manuscript?
Really?
I'm not joking you. No joke. They didn't consult a single manuscript. Instead, what they did was they went to the different readings, the Qur'at literature, and they said, well, those are the readings that say, oh, Hafs says it like this, Hafs says it like that. It's kind of like what you're reading with Bridges translation, where he says, oh, this person needs to read it this way, this person needs to read it that way. They constructed this entire Quran not based on one single manuscript at all.
Then what they constructed on?
What's that?
So they just went to a reciter or a bunch of reciters and just wrote it down what they recited. I mean, how'd they?
No, they went to a book. They went to a book on like the different readings of the Quran, where it says Hafs used to read it like this. This is how Hafs would read it according to Hafs' students. So they didn't even consult readers. They consulted like a book about what Hafs said, and so they didn't actually consult any manuscripts at all. And that's shocking to everyone who hears that, because it's like, especially as Christians, we value the manuscript evidence. We value that. So Muslims don't actually value manuscripts at all. They don't actually look at the manuscripts and say, oh, I mean, you'll hear them talk about like the Birmingham manuscript and things like that, and they say, oh, it's the oldest. Well, guess what? Birmingham manuscript doesn't agree with Hafs in a couple of readings. So it's not. So there's no manuscript out there that Muslims can look at and say, oh yeah, this is what Hafs says. They don't have that. So yeah, it's amazing that yeah. So no, so yeah, to answer your question, no, we don't have any manuscripts that have this extra prayer in it, but that's also because Muslims don't really value what the manuscript evidence says, but they do value what people say, like what was part of the Quran. So they do go to these manuals where they say, oh, Hafs would read it like this, and so then they say, okay, that's how we got Hafs's reading based on what other people would say Hafs would say.
So then these reciter competitions we hear about where they're reciting, okay? How did they actually say he's going to recite in this tradition? Because this could start fights. This could start actual conflict. I mean, people could,
Dude, I want to post something up. Give me just 1 second here. I want to post something up because if one of you guys can just take over for a minute, because I want to post something up for you.
Just to let you all know. Just to let you all.
If I have to choose between 1.6 billion Muslims and a cow, I would choose the cow.
Yeah, that's our special message from the crazy guy who's no longer a Muslim. But
I guess Muhammad Hijab just did a reaction to him.
Oh really?
And David Wood and Apostate Prophet are going to go over it. They're going to go over it today, in a stream.
Check it out.
Yeah.
You know that video you were showing earlier with Muhammad Hijab and who the Sheikh and who else was Ali Dawa in that video? The one that you showed earlier?
Oh yeah, Ali Dawa.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking that this is the type of material that you would think that David Wood would latch on to and put in something like Islamicize Me, where they would be asking him some silly question like that, and then they get to this this answer that completely just contradicts their entire religious view or their Islamic view of orthodoxy. That would be that would be priceless. It really would, especially with David's warped mind. I mean, he would have he would have a ball with that. Okay, so what are you pulling up here?
Yeah, I want to
Real
show you
quick,
something.
Real
yeah.
quick to Miller, I wasn't saying Masab is crazy. I'm saying he's the crazy looking dude because he is. He's just so intense. Okay,
So
go
check
ahead.
this out. If you guys can put this up on all right. So this is to Rad's point, because it's true. And I want to show you another video as well afterwards. But so if you read this here, this is from one of Shadi Nasser's articles, and he says here that the jurists emphasize that it's permissible to recite the Quran according to different readings. However, the bizarre readings and some uncommon transmissions may cause the laity to fall into confusion and doubt. One therefore should avoid reciting the Quran using the readings of so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so in front of uneducated people, commoners, and villagers, for the readings might be an object of amusement and even mockery. So like you said, exactly what you said, it'll cause fights. There are instances where you had people in the Ottoman Empire where they were starting to recite the Quran in readings that weren't familiar to the people, not like Hafs, they were outside of the Hafs tradition. And that's what people would do. They were so confused. They were mocking it, making fun of it, calling it crazy, bizarre. Like, this is not the Quran. What are you, crazy? And yeah, exactly what you said. It causes all the problems because Muslims, they're not familiar with these other Qurans. So when you start reciting them, yeah, it's
only though to the, what does it say, the uneducated lay people, you know, those peasants, those plebes, they do not understand the true meaning of Allah's words. So we must Allah's words are only meant for us educated people. So we must keep them. Wow. This thing is just insane. Wow. I mean, you know what? I remember, so, you know, after 2001, you know, that's when I got the interest in Islam. As you guys know, what I'm Pal Talk, and all these things that these Muslims used to brag about in their dawah rooms, it's all falling apart on them. It really is.
Oh yeah.
It's just amazing to see. I don't see it. So the only thing they can do is just put their fingers in their ears and say la 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 la. No, not gonna believe you. Blah blah. Blah. Or then just go, well, it doesn't matter anyway. I still believe. Like Ali Dawah does. Ali Dawah says, I was convinced of the scientific miracles, and then I found out the scientific miracles were not true. But you know that video he made. He's like, yes, but I still believe in Allah. So it's good that I believed the lie. He actually says it. It's good that I believed the lie about Islam because it converted me to Islam. Right. All right.
Oh yeah. So here we go. We have I guess we don't really need to play the because it's in Arabic, but I can just mute it. We'll just read the subtitles. So the question is to this big Sheikh Al-Fawzan. The question is, it says the Imam in our mosque who is studying religious sciences sometimes leads people in prayers and recites the Quran in a reading different from that of Hafs. Okay, he says, is his conduct correct? And what is the legal verdict on praying behind him? So check this out.
الصلاة صحيحة لكن هو لا يجوز له ذلك لأنه يشوش على الناس.
Yeah, the prayer.
Wow.
Right.
He is confusing people. The prayer is valid, but he is not allowed to do that because he is confusing people.
Exactly. Yep. So there you go. That just. Oh, what did I do? Am I still? Oh, okay. Yeah. So I thought I exited out. Yeah. So that's they're scholars, and so I'll just kind of wrap up with one last thing here, and I want you to check this out. So when it comes to all these variant readings of the Quran, you know, we often ask the Muslims, So which one is written on the preserved tablet? Because Muslims believe that there's a preserved tablet. You know, Allah has this eternal tablet in heaven, and the Quran, what's written on it? Which Quran is written on it? So, not Yasser Khali, Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawa, they're asked this question. And they say, hey, look, they're coming to us and saying, you know, you guys are saying Allah said it like this, Muhammad said it like this. Which one is on the preserved tablet? What's the answer to that question? And let's see if you guys find this answer to be satisfactory, or you think we should keep pressing Muslims and asking them the question, which one is on the preserved tablet? Let's see what he says.
The Prophet said it like this and he said it like that. Allah said it like this and he said it like that. Because they keep asking the question, so which one is in the preserved tablet? What's the answer to that question? The preserved tablet is that of the unseen, and we will not be given access to that.
Yeah, at least he said that. At least he didn't say, "Oh, Allah knows best."
Yeah, yeah, we don't have access. You're right.
We don't have access. So then, what book do you have? I mean, so that makes the Quran that's on planet Earth just a farce, just a lie.
Exactly.
Thank you.
What good is it then?
Yeah.
Let's think about this.
Exactly. What good is a lie? What good is a farce? It's good for nothing.
How are you gonna know what you have if you can't see the original? You know, if you can't compare it to the original. No, but I was just thinking about this. I thought about this before. But okay, so they said the Quran is Allah's speech. It's direct speech. But it was the angel Gabriel who allegedly transmitted Allah's direct speech to Muhammad. So does Gabriel speak Allah's direct speech? Or did he have to get it translated? And who translated Allah's direct speech to the angel Gabriel so he could put it in Arabic and incite it to the mere human prophet Muhammad?
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, so where's their Ishnad chain on that one, dude?
Exactly.
I mean, and you can't even know because it's unseen. We'll never have access to it. Now he's not saying no. When we go to Jannah, we'll be able to see Quran the tablet. No, he's saying never.
Right. Never.
Wow.
So I mean,
he just busted Islam.
Yeah, and so from our perspective, that like here's a scholar saying, I don't know how to answer that question. It's not in our realm. We don't know it. We can't access it. We can never access it. That's only for Allah. Like this to us, it's telling us, hey, everyone, keep asking Muslims that question because they don't have answers. Keep poking, keep pressing, keep doing it, because there are holes in the narrative. This is
okay,
AI.
Hey, Jai, was that video made before the Yasser Qadi video?
Oh,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
this is when Hatun and Jay Smith went to Speaker's Corner with 26 Qurans.
Right, I remember
and
that.
It just confused Muslims like nothing else. And so what Ali Dawa and Muhammad Hijab did was they ran to the sheikh and they asked him about it. And they thought they were helping people by asking them questions. But as you can see, he didn't actually answer the question. Yeah.
Yeah, he gave one of those non-answers.
Yeah, he started telling everybody, hey, everybody, come over this way, over here, get away from that.
Hey, Ed, man. How you doing, Ed? It's
pretty good. How you doing, Jai? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man. God bless you. I sorry, I have this thing on full screen, so I can't see everyone who's here. But yeah, God bless you, man. I haven't heard from you in a while, so hope you're doing well. So check this out. So there are holes in the narrative, and this is kind of how I like to tie it to the gospel here. And
advanced student and specialist, that the standard narrative has holes. That's what I'm
sorry, I just thought that was a good pause. Yeah.
That was perfect. That was perfect. So yeah, oops. Oh, I messed up. Okay, here we go. You guys see it here? Okay, so yeah, there are holes in the standard narrative, and so what we want to tell Muslims.
There we go. Holy cow!
Yeah,
looks like a Harry Potter movie. Well, cool.
It's like I just typed in like AI image generator. I'm like, you just make a bunch of books with holes in them. I just want to illustrate holes in the narrative point, and so it came up with this, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I can work with that.
Yeah, it looks like a pit, doesn't it? Looks like a pit.
Bottomless.
Yeah.
Bottomless.
Mm-hmm.
It actually looks like the Black Rock kind of. So that's perfect.
Oh, it sure does too.
Yeah.
So they're kissing a pit.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what? I've heard that most of them, I'm not saying all, most of them don't even read the Quran, and most of them, because you're supposed to read it in Arabic, they don't even know the language.
Oh,
So
true.
it's kind of useless to, I don't know, uh, to bring it up unless we're talking to a scholar. But they all pretend to us that they're a scholar. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Yeah, they do. They present themselves as scholars, and then you start asking them about the topics, and like, oh, I'm not a scholar. I don't know. I'll get back to you on it. They
Yeah.
usually never get back to you though. That's my experience.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, where are the scholars that are coming to discuss with us?
Exactly.
Hmm.
That's what I want to know, because they keep telling us go to the scholars. So, well, where can we find them? Where are they?
Yeah, are they going? That's showing. Sorry, Sharon. That's just showing that they're not going to the scholars, but they're jumping on platforms. And then when they get pressed to be honest with the text, they say, "I'm not a scholar. I'll get back to you," and they never do. You know, it's really sad because we do want to discuss with them. Thank you.
Yep. So here we go. It boils down to Yasser Qadhi saying that there are holes in the standard narrative. That's what it boils down to. And so Muslims, we are appealing to you and calling you and telling you that you have holes, that you're trusting your eternal salvation in these holes. And these holes cannot save you. These holes, the holes in the standard narrative, cannot and can never save you. But there are holes that can save you. The holes in the hands and the feet of the Lord Jesus. Those are holes that bring salvation, and those save you. The prophet Isaiah said, "But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds, by his holes, we are healed." So we ask all the Muslims who have been in the holes of Islam and to repent and to believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, because those holes actually bring salvation.
Amen.
Can I add to that, Jai, for you a little bit?
Amen.
Because because of the shed blood of Christ that atones for us. It's in the blood. Thank
Amen.
you. Amen, sir. Thank you, sir. Great presentation.
Amen. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. And
Awesome.
yeah, it was really great.
Hey, I got a couple questions, man.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
Can I
Yeah,
ask
I'm
a
not
question or two? Okay, since we got you here. All right. So first off,
okay,
you started talking about Ibn Mujahid in the 10th century, and how he pretty much came to conform it to the 7 readings. Am I right on this so far? Okay.
Correct.
So when did this belief, the standard belief that the Quran has been perfectly preserved, start to gain popular traction? Do you know? And if you don't know that, that's fine. I'm just trying to put all this, because I'm a history guy, and I kind of put things spatially on a timeline. When does this start, and why is it so dogmatic now when it's been absolutely refuted by people like yourself doing these shows?
Yeah, so I've heard Shadi Nasser and everyone's favorite Mufti Abu Layth, which the guy used to have a great laugh, and he used to be a really funny guy to listen to, until the Muslims attacked him, and he just kind of had to tone everything down. Kind of lost his humor after that. It's really sad. They attacked his family, attacked his house, just because of his views. Yeah, just because of his views on Israel, Palestine, and Muslims really attacked him after that. Thanks to Muhammad Hijab, by the way, he put him in danger. So I heard him say, and Shadi Nasser say, that it goes back about 200 years. It's only about 200 years.
So this is the recent phenomenon. This is
yeah.
So we're talking 19th century, 18th century, 19th century time frame.
Yeah, because you have Muslims, like classical Muslims, who were arguing, like you had Shia Muslim, you had Shia Muslims arguing that these variant readings, like they were talking to the Sunnis and saying, hey, these variant readings you guys have prove that the Quran's corrupt. So how come you guys are saying there's only one Quran when you have all these different readings? So I guess it was more common back then, but this whole, I think 200 years, unless I could be mistaking Hafs's popularity being 200 years with this doctrine. But as far as I know from the research that I've done, is that there's not like a definitive time when Muslims like switched from believing into word for word, letter for letter preservation. Then there's only one version. I think that's pretty much when Hafs gained popularity, which is probably about 200 years ago. Because by the way, Hafs was not always the popular reading of the Quran. That was something that is due to the Ottomans. They are the ones who really popularized Hafs, and then of course in 1923, 1924, in Cairo, the project of this mass printing of the Quran and in this, which wasn't based on manuscripts, that really popularized the Quran as Hafs as being the standard version.
Well, that's right at the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. Also.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's due to the Ottoman Empire for popularizing Hafs, and then their printing of it, which really kind of cemented that, and that's about 100 years ago. So yeah, about 200 years or so that's the date that I've heard. But I don't know if there's actually a definitive date for where this kind of changed from. We have all these different variants to. But this was always a problem since the beginning of Islam. Like even the companions were confused when they heard other companions reciting different Qurans.
I had asked Al-Fadi recently about some of the research that he's doing, and I don't know if you guys have been watching their shows or not, but they're actually starting to delve into the idea that these texts were actually Christian texts and not Muslim text. And I asked him, I said, hey man, I'm hearing that the Quran was standardized in the 1980s by Saudi Arabia. Is that true? He says, well, I'm not sure, but I'm looking into that. It's a good possibility.
And this is a book that's really that outlines that really well, where there are a bunch of homiletics. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
No,
that's great. I'm glad.
Who's the author's name, Eric?
Gunter.
Can you show us on the screen so we can spell it?
Gunter. You don't know how to spell Gunter?
Right. Thank you, sir.
Gunter, common spelling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the Quran has many canonizations through history, but yeah, modern times, definitely the Ottomans, and then these kind of mass printings, like Ed said, you had that one in Egypt, and you had one in Saudi Arabia, and this kind of like cemented this. Now you have mass printings of the Hafs version of the Quran, which is just one out of the 20 readings that they have. But like I said, this wasn't always the popular reading. There was another reading that was popular in the Middle East, and other parts of the Muslim world would prioritize and have different readings. But this really made it kind of like 95% of Muslims use this one reading now, modern.
So that's kind of interesting. So like 200 years ago, that's pretty much when textual criticism of our scripture started. You know what I mean? That's when they started to really go over the different the Greek manuscripts and stuff like that. Really started studying academia. So I would bet that Muslims latched onto this and just said, "Hey, we'll just tell these rubes that we'll have the one perfectly preserved Quran, not like the Christian books." You see what I'm saying? So they just did it as a tool.
I think I've actually heard scholars make that comparison, and they say like, yeah, that's you have this criticism of the Bible going around at the same time. And so then you have people are starting to look into Islam as well, like what they call, they call them Orientalists, like that's what Muslims call them, as like a derogatory. Well, it's not really a derogatory term, but that's what Muslims call them. Like these guys are just Islamophobes, and they call them Orientalists. When they started poking around, looking into Islam, and yeah, it seems like that's a pretty that might make sense. Like Muslims are like, yeah, we just have this one version. It's never been changed before from Muhammad to today, and we don't have these problems. Don't look over here.
who was it then? Was it Al Azhar University, or was it the Egyptian government in 1924, or the Ottoman Empire would have been destroyed at that point in time? I mean, who actually took the Hafs version and just mass printed it and said this is the one we're going by? I mean, what authority was it,
Yeah.
or was it just a publishing house? You know, some
Yeah,
Arabic publishing house said, "I'm gonna make billions of dollars." You know?
Yeah, the way that I've heard it was that when it came to like standardizations, like when you have people are like taking tests on the Quran, like in school, they would keep like there wasn't like a standardized version, so everyone was doing it in different ways. And so the president of Egypt at the time, or no, I think that was the king. They called him the king back then, and he King Fahd, and he was the he was the one who kind of initiated this project, and then you had like the scholars on board, and they kind of took over from there. And it was like I think it started in 1923 and it finished in 1924. But this is David Wood said that they're going to have a stream on I think in July, because they actually have a date for this. They have a date for when in 1924 was this like officially finished, and it was sometime in July. So this will be the 100th year anniversary sometime in July. So they're going to do a stream on like the Quran's 100th year birthday.
Yeah. I was just thinking that this would be its birthday, or it's
Yeah.
it's one birthday. So let's have a great big celebration.
We should have a Quran cake. Yeah. Oh, Quran cake.
Yeah. So if you Google the Cairo edition, if you just type in Cairo edition on Google, and you get the Wikipedia page, and they actually have a date for it. They say July 10th, 1924. July 10th, 1924. So I'm guessing that it'll be July 10th upcoming, where they're going to have this 100-year birthday party.
Save that date. Save that date.
I've got a question for you, Jai.
Yes.
What about when Egypt drowned all those Qurans? What year was that, sir?
Oh, sorry, I said Fahd. I meant to say Fuad, King Fuad. Yeah. So that's I've heard that as well, and that's around that same time period where they had all these different manuscripts and versions of the Quran, where they just threw them into the Nile. And you actually do have a scholar reporting on that and saying that that's actually what happened. And I've looked into it. I've tried to find like more ways to verify it, but there is actually a report from a reputable scholar who says that's what happened in that time period, 1924, when they were standardizing this Hafs version of the Quran, that they actually disregarded, threw out into the Nile River all these other versions. Some people dispute that, but there is a reputable scholar who says no, that's actually what happened.
Thank you. Yeah, because God Logic has taught Rocco on that too, saying they literally drowned them in the Nile.
Yeah. We do have a scholar saying that. So
is there a couple of them that can that has joined him in saying that to verify, to bring like 3 or 4 witnesses?
It's one of those or
not witnesses, sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those German scholars. So I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly, but his last name is like Bergtrasser or something. I don't know. I'll type it in the private chat if someone knows how to read it. You guys can help me out with it. But yeah, so this guy here, he's one of the scholars who reported on it. And then another one named Gabriel Reynolds cites him. So I guess you do have multiple scholars who do say that. Yeah, you do have multiple witnesses.
So the Quran is in denial.
Yeah.
More or less. Okay, Jai, we're not going to keep you up any later. I can't tell you how thankful we are that you've come in and you've been able to share with us today. It's been an education, and it's been a lot of fun too.
Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Do you have these slides available?
What?
Yeah, if you guys want to check out if you go to our channel and you go to the community tab, you just scroll down in there and you'll see these slides are available. I have it on a Dropbox link. So if you're interested in those slides, and you saw how they were presented today. So if you want to present them or kind of give your own take on them, you can do so. Just go to the YouTube channel, go to the community tab, and just scroll down until you see a Dropbox link. And yeah, you have all those slides that I presented today. I shouldn't say all of them. I'm always editing these things, but there's some variation of it inside the Dropbox link. And yeah, feel free to use them. Just don't sell them, but you can use them and for the glory of God. And yeah, so.
Okay,
dude,
you
I
said
have my Amazon link up. It's already in my store, dude. $9.99. And I'm gonna throw in the prayer rug too. Yeah.
Okay, this is on your new channel in the community.
Yeah.
You said. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the community tab and.
All right. Yeah, I see it. All right. Yep. Okay.
And
Got
all
it.
those listening on Jay's channel, please come over and support us over here. Like, share, subscribe, blah blah blah. Do all the nonsense.
Right. We're here every Sunday afternoon
comment.
at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, not 2 p.m. like we were today, but we're 99% of the time we're here at 4 p.m.
And stick around for the cold close. And then Jay, if you want that for your guys' channel, just let me know. I'll send it to you.
Cool. Yeah. So if you guys want to put the link to your channel, I think it will go through to both chats. I'm not sure how it works, but if you put it in the StreamYard here, I think that they'll get the link on my channel as well. If you guys want to put it in there.
I think that's it right there. Crossing the Crescent production group. I mean, you just type it in there. I think it's like 9224. You have to add to that. I don't know why they add that to it, but that.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, thanks for having me on, and I'm interested to see the this closing that you guys. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Phil posted the link as well in the other. Okay, great. You guys got it. Cool. So yeah, please do subscribe to these guys. Like their videos and share the love. So thanks for having us. Thanks for having me on. God bless. And yeah, I'll stick around for this extra thing that you got going on.
This is rad. And
Thank
Rad.
you, Jai. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is so rad. All right.
God bless.
God bless you. Here we go.
Advanced, student, and specialist. That the standard narrative has holes. That's what I'm
that the Muslims were rioting against one another. And as much as we don't want to face the fact, the Muslims were lying sometimes. They were fabricating, they were embellishing, and that might be hard to accept, but that is a reality.